what's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb, and good evening to you. It is good to see you, and it is a good thing to be here tonight. Listen, I am excited. We are mid-stride on this 7 types of dater series. We are on part 3, and tonight I got a treat for you. We're going to talk about the preacher. And so I need you to invite some people to church. Tonight's going to be a little heavy and in a very strange to some people kind of way. Tonight's going to be a little heavy. But I need you to invite 5 people. I need you to tag 5 people right now. Facebook, if you're on, I want you to start your watch party and tag 5 people, put them in it. And get them on the line. Tonight's going to be different. Tonight's going to be different in terms of connecting this word and this concept to dating. It's going to be abstract for some people. It's going to be clear as day for others. But I cannot wait to share this one with you tonight. It's going to be a powerful time. So listen, tag 5 people. Come on. You know the routine. I've got 7-Eleven. So you've got 4 minutes. I need you to tag 5 people right now and tell them to get on the line. Thank you. Periscope, they're inviting people on Periscope. Facebook, come on. I need you to tag 5 people now. Instagram, good evening to you. And I want you to tag 5 people now and tell them to get on the line. I really believe God is going to speak tonight to us in a special way, as only He can. And I cannot wait to share with you what the Lord has given to me as it relates to this 3rd type of dater that we call the preacher. I'm not talking about preachers tonight. That's not the point, but I'm going to use an analogy of preachers or of the preacher to make the connection to a dater type called the preacher. And so I don't want you to get that confused. I'm not going to, bash your favorite preacher or nobody tonight, but I'm going to make a connection tonight between the preacher and the dater, the preacher. And it's going to make a whole lot of sense once we just set the table. But listen, I need you to invite 5 people. Come on, Facebook, the number's moving slow. Let's speed it up. Tag 5 people right now. Tell them to get on the line, get their notebooks ready, get their cell phones ready. If they don't have either one, they can drop their notes in the comments tonight. But I'm here to tell you tonight is going to be powerful. I hope you have been blessed so far by part 1 and part 2 of this series. It's been very candid, as only we know how to do. It's been very candid, and God has really spoke to us in a very candid way. And so I've been so grateful to bring this series to you, and just grateful for the next couple of weeks that we have together talking about the types of daters. If you're single, perfect series for you. If you're married, still a good series for you. If it's complicated, that means it doesn't exist, but that's a different conversation. But still a good series for you as well, because there are some very candid things that I'm sharing with you tonight that will challenge you. Some things I'm sharing with you through this series that will challenge you and stretch you. But most importantly, it's going to grow you. It's going to empower you. And so I can't wait to share tonight with you. And I can't wait to dive into this word. All right, I got 2 more minutes. I need you to hurry. Tag 5 people quickly. I want to get started tonight. And get into this series. I got a lot of explaining to do because a lot of people hit me up and was like, yo, Pastor, you got Jim Jones on the flyer. How in the world do you have Jim Jones on the flyer? And it's going to all make sense in a little while. And so I got a lot of explaining to do. And so I can't wait to dive into this. Come on, tag 5 people. We've got 90 seconds. Tag 5 people now. Tell them to get on the line. Invite 5 of their girlfriends, 5 of their boyfriends, 5 of their homeboys, whoever. Tell them to get on the line and tune in. Tonight is going to be a powerful, powerful, powerful series. And I promise you, I guarantee you are going to be blessed after tonight. It's going to be a powerful word, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Come on, you got 60 seconds. Invite 5 people. While you are inviting people, let me just say this to you. I want to personally thank all of you that have reached out today to wish me a happy 19-year ministry anniversary. I am grateful for all of the well wishes that you have shared with me today, and I want you to know that I don't take it for granted. I hope you weren't offended when I said in my post, my personal post, not the church post, but my personal post, that if given the chance, I would not do that again. Ministry is not for the faint of heart. It is not something you desire to do. It is something God calls you to do. And I would love to be able to live my life like everybody else. But I'm so grateful for what God has done in the journey that he has taken me on. And I'm grateful to be able to come to you in this way, in this manner during this quarantine season. Grateful for 19 years. Can't wait for the 20th year and more beyond that. And so listen, 30 seconds. Are you tagging people? Come on. Come on, Facebook. I need to see you. At people. Instagram, y'all quiet as a mouse. I need you to at some people. Look in the room, see who ain't there. And I need you to at some people right now. Tag them, get them on the line because we're about to go deep tonight into the preacher. This message is going to, I don't know how much screaming I'm going to do tonight because, and as bad as I like to scream and as much as I love to scream, I don't know how much screaming I'll do tonight because some of this I just need to talk you through. It's going to be heavy and I just need to talk you through it. All right. All right. So let's get started tonight. I'm going to talk about dater number 3. We're on the series 7 types of daters. And I'm going to deal tonight with dater number 3, which is the preacher. All right. Which is the preacher. And I want to start and give some context at 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. All right. Get that. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. I want you to get that. And I want to use this as context to set the stage to talk about this third type of dater, which is the preacher. Again, I'm not talking about preachers tonight. I'm not saying that the third type of dater is a preacher. That's not what I said. I'm talking about the preacher. It is a type. It is a type that I have identified that's going to bless you. And I'm going to use the comparisons between normal preachers or regular preachers that we know and the type of dater that is called a preacher or the preacher. And it's going to make sense in a second. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. All right. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 14 through 16. New Living Translation says this: do not neglect the spiritual gift, neglect the spiritual gift within you, which was bestowed on you through prophetic utterance with the laying on of hands by the presbytery or by the church leaders or the church elders. Take pains. I'm in verse 15. Take pains with these things. Be absorbed in them so that your progress will be evident to all. Look at verse 16. Pay close attention to yourself and to your teaching. Persevere in all these things, for as you do this, you will ensure salvation for both yourself and for those who hear you. Now, I want to say this to you about preachers, the preacher type of dater. And I'm going to get to the characteristics. And just as I've done every week, I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of the preacher dater, but not yet. There's some things that I want to share with you to set the context, and it's simple. And that is, you should never date. You should never be involved with dating, relationships, friendships, whatever. You should never date, be involved with, connected to anybody, hear me, who focuses more on everybody else than themselves. You should never date, be in relationship with, be connected to, be friends with, whatever. Anybody who focuses more on everybody else than themselves. This is so important. And Timothy really sets the groundwork for us to understand the importance of focusing on us first. That's all of us. Doesn't matter what your occupation is. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter who you are. Your number one obligation in life, this is so important. Your number one obligation in life is to save yourself. It's important. There's an element of selfishness that must come into play when it comes to you being everything that God wants you to be. And that is starting with you, just focusing on you. You should never be involved with anybody who has more of a focus on everybody else, who pays more attention to what everybody else is doing than themselves, who's always busy evaluating everybody else, but never taking time to look themselves in the mirror. Michael Jackson, one of his best songs and best lines in one of his best songs was, "I'm looking at the man in the mirror." It's a powerful thing, because when you start with the person in the mirror, that self-evaluation is where growth is. And so when you are connected to people who focus more, hear me, I'm setting foundation tonight, who focus more on everybody else, what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is going, and pays little attention to what they're doing, you need to run. You need to run. Now, I see a couple of questions already coming in through the comments. Is it okay to be selfish? In a sense of guarding and focusing and developing who you are? Absolutely. You have to. You have to, at some point, pay more attention to what you are doing than pointing out the flaws and issues of everybody else. Because here's what happens. You can be so tied into trying to help everybody else, trying to deliver everybody else. I told you this Sunday, trying to bring everybody else out, that in the process, you end up losing you. Remember the thing that I talked to you about Sunday about the boat going down, people going off the boat, they're in the water, and you having 3 choices to make, right? Keep this in mind. When you're making those choices about saving a person, none of those choices, the third choice or the second choice, no, the third choice could involve you jumping in the water to go after them. But that's only after a careful evaluation and consideration of the circumstances, the person, the situation, their level, their maturity. Are they a kid? Are they grown and making the same mistakes over and over again, right? And so, yes, there is an element of selfishness that I think we all have to consider when it comes to who we connect with in any kind of way. And I know selfishness is considered to be a taboo word. It's considered to be so taboo in society because we understand that it is better to give. It is better to pour out. It is better to lend out. We understand that. But there are certain circumstances where you will drain you if you never look out for you. And some of you should be tired of draining you at the expense of other people. Here's your first PowerPoint. I want you to put in the comments right now. I'm tired of draining me for everybody else. I know that ain't for everybody. I know that ain't for everybody. That word is not going to be well received for everybody. But there's a handful of us that's good and tired. Just tired. I'm tired of draining me for everybody else. At a certain point, you have to develop a certain self-wherewithal to say, I'm going to put me and what I need at the forefront of my life so that my life can be what it needs to be. I'm tired of being drained, of draining me for everybody else. It's a powerful proclamation to make. And Timothy is kind of drawing us here because he's in essence reminding us that we should never really be connected to anybody who focuses more on everybody else than themselves. So in the context of this text, Timothy then challenges us. He challenges every minister, rather. He challenges every minister, every preacher to do 2 things. And this is where we're going to start to lay the foundation. He challenges every preacher to do 2 things. 2 things. He challenges them. You've got to do 2 things if you're going to focus more on you than everybody else. Number 1, he challenges them to soak themselves in their gift. Number 1, he challenges them to soak themselves in their gift. So he says to them in essence, listen, before you get involved in helping other people, what I want you to do is I want you to take pain with these things. I want you to take pain with these things. In other words, not just take pains, but that word pain can be translated into soak. I want you to soak yourself in the gift that you've been given. So before you try to help others, you got to work first to use your gift to help yourself. This is going to all make sense in the context of the preacher in just 1 second. Again, before you try to help other people, you have to work first to use all of your gifts to help yourself. And one of the downsides to the preacher type of dater is that they are oftentimes so focused on helping everybody else that they pay little attention to their own selves. Okay? And so Timothy is saying to us, listen, pay more attention, help yourself first, use your gift to help yourself first, right? Become pained by your gifts, become involved in your gifts, become soaked in your gifts, because anything that pains you will always be considered when you're moving, when you're involved in things, you're taking action. Anything that pains you is always going to be considered before you make any kind of moves. And so I want to just say this, and I'm going to get back to this word in a little while, but let me just say off the bat, to all of you gifted people, to all of you people who have dated gifted people, let me say this to you. A gift with no discipline can become a tool that makes you bound. A gift with no discipline can become a tool that makes you bound. One of the most dangerous things about being gifted is being gifted, but you have no discipline. Because when you are gifted and you have no discipline, the very lack of discipline that you possess can actually keep you bound. It can cause you not to grow the way you want to grow, or grow the way you need to grow. And so this is critically important, because one of the things we're going to learn about the preacher is that the preacher type of dater tends to be a very gifted individual. They tend to be very gifted individuals. But the problem is they use their gifts to focus more on everybody else than focusing on themselves. They use their gift to try to free more other people than they spend time trying to free themselves. And so that's where dating the preacher, the type of dater, let me just keep saying that tonight, becomes dangerous, because the preacher type dater, again, is incredibly gifted, but doesn't have the discipline to understand that I truly can't save nobody else until I save myself. And if you ever date or get connected to somebody who is trying to save everybody else but them, it's going to drain you. It's going to completely drain you. I'm talking about those people who can point out what's wrong with everybody else. I'm talking about those people who are quick to point fingers at everybody else. I'm talking about those people that are quick to point out the flaws in everybody else. And they might be absolutely right. They might be spot on right. But the problem is they ain't use that same energy and those same gifts with that same energy to fix their own issues. And so you got to be careful, because this data is synonymous with this. They're incredibly gifted, might be incredibly wise, might be incredibly talented. But the problem is they're using their talents everywhere else but on themselves. So Timothy says to them, number one, soak yourself in your gift. And then he says, number two, pay close attention to yourself and what you teach. Pay close attention to yourself and what you teach. At the core of your longevity in anything is the ability to see yourself first. At the core of your longevity in anything is the ability to see yourself first. I don't want nobody else in my life who is so busy telling me about everybody else that they have yet to spend a moment of their time telling me about themselves. Even as a leader, one of the things that I do as a leader is that I don't let people run to me with a whole bunch of stuff about everybody else if they don't include in that run some stuff about themselves. Because these types of people, these types of preachers are the types of people that are quick to see what's wrong with everybody else, but pay little attention to what's going on with them. And I'll say it if you won't say it. Nothing makes a person more unattractive than the inability to see what's wrong with them. Nothing. That's a good PowerPoint right there. Makes a person more unattractive than their inability to see what's wrong with them. Ever been around a person who was really smart? They really knew a lot, but they could catch what was going on with everybody else but them. They could catch what everybody else's issue was but their own. They could point out everybody else's flaw but their own. Let me tell you something. There is nothing more unattractive than to be connected to somebody who has the ability to see what's wrong with everybody else but themselves. And this is symptomatic of the preacher kind of dater, because the preacher dater, watch this, is so busy preaching that they're not spending enough time self-evaluating. Did y'all hear what I said? The preacher dater spends so much time preaching at you that they don't spend enough time working on themselves. Listen, when you focus on what you're doing, you are better positioned to be able to help somebody else. When you focus on what you doing, what you ain't doing, you are better positioned to help somebody else. And so what makes the preacher dater so frustrating is that they spend so much energy and effort on everybody else that they are not spending enough of that same effort and energy focusing on who they are, what they're not, and what they need to be working on, right? And so, and I'll deal with this a little bit later on because this leads me to kind of get into this hypocrite thing, right? We have a misconception of what a hypocrite is. You know, we think that a hypocrite is somebody who says one thing and does something else. And that's not true. A hypocrite is not a person who says one thing and does something else. A hypocrite says one thing, does something else, but here's the kicker: cannot admit the wrong in what they do. Did you hear what I said? A hypocrite is not a person who says one thing and does something else. A hypocrite is a person who says one thing, does something else, but in the process can't admit the wrong in what they're doing. So the issue is not in what they're doing, it's an honesty issue. It's an honesty issue. And this is what makes dating the preacher dangerous. Because, and I know I'm not screaming at y'all tonight, but I feel like I really got to take my time and set this foundation so it makes sense. This is what makes the preacher danger so dangerous, because these people right here are very hypocritical in nature. They can see what's wrong with everybody else. They can point out everybody else's flaw. They might even give you a Bible verse or two. They might be able to give you some good values and logics behind why people aren't doing what they're doing and why they are doing what they're doing. But at the core of their being, they can never truly see what's wrong with them. Listen, I want you to make the devil mad. I want you to put it in the comments. I want you to put in the comments right now. If you can't see what's wrong with you, you can't tell me what's wrong with me. That's a mouthful. It's going to take you time to type it. Type it! Somebody asked me to scream. There you go. Put it in the comments right now. If you can't see what's wrong with you, you can't tell me what's wrong with me. That's for every preacher person that you've been. That's for every preacher, the preacher type that you've dated. That's for every person you've been in a relationship with that's been the preacher type. That's for every friendship connection that you have. Some of you have friends that are the preacher type. They know what's wrong with everybody else, and they have yet to figure out and be honest about what's wrong with them. And I'm here to tell you, if you can't see what's wrong with you, you can't tell me what's wrong with me. Talk back to me, Zion. It's the truth. You can't see what's wrong with you. Can't tell me what's wrong with me, because you are not positioned to be honest enough to give me that feedback. And this is the core of the preacher. The person that you date that is the preacher type. The friends that you have that are the preacher types. This is the core of the preacher, because they can give it good. They can talk it good. They can move it good, but they ain't going to do what they move. They ain't going to do what they talk. And they ain't honest enough to admit that they got the same problems. They ain't honest enough to admit that they got the same or some different issues. And so if you can't see what's wrong with me, you simply cannot tell me, or if you can't see what's wrong with you, you simply can't tell me what's wrong with me. And that's where it starts. And that's at the core of who the preacher is. All right. So I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of the preacher. And I've got to take my time tonight. I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of the preacher. And if you're with me, I want you to fill it up with hearts, likes. Let me know you're on the line, because it's getting ready to get good. I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of the preacher under the foundation of what we describe that type to be, which again, knowledgeable, gifted, can help many people, but struggles with understanding what's wrong with them, right? That's the preacher type in a nutshell. And so I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of the preacher type, all right? I'm going to give you 5 characteristics of the preacher type, but I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. If folks can't see what's wrong with them, they are in no position to tell you what's wrong with you. And you got to quit letting people play you and condemn you because they haven't been honest with themselves. Look at this. Characteristic number 1. First characteristic of the preacher. Again, I'm not talking about the preacher, a preacher. I'm talking about the type. All right. I can't say this enough. Characteristic number 1 of the preacher type. You ready? Record this. They think they can save, change, or rescue everybody. Characteristic number 1 of the preacher type of dater. They think they can save, change, or rescue everybody. The preacher type of dater thinks that they can save, change, or rescue everybody. Now, let me explain this. This is where I'm going to lose some of you tonight on number 1. Let me explain this. One of the things you need to know about the preacher type is that they are gifted naturally. They are gifted. They are naturally gifted. And here's the big one. They are naturally persuasive. They're naturally persuasive. They're gifted. They're very charismatic. This is important. The preacher type of dater is gifted, is naturally persuasive, and is very charismatic. Some people hit me up and said, Dr. Talley, why did you use Jim Jones on the flyer? One of the saddest things about the Jonestown saga, if you don't know anything about that, Google it. You should know something about that. One of the saddest things about that saga is that Jim Jones was this preacher who had all of these folks on this island who was preaching them a gospel. They left their families to come join him on this island. He was feeding them all of this stuff, and he was a charismatic guy. He was very charismatic. Very gifted, very persuasive, had all of these folks on this island. And long story short, the FBI and other people tried to caught on to what was going on, that this was a camp, and this was a cult, and the FBI was coming in to investigate news stories, and they were getting ready to try to come and invade it and shut it down. And he literally talks all of these people, hundreds of people, into drinking cyanide, and told them that if you drink cyanide, you're going to meet Jesus. And literally was feeding cyanide to children, women, grown folks were taking it, giving it to their own kids. He had them all drink cyanide, and then he shot himself. He didn't even drink the same Kool-Aid. So he gave the cyanide, I'm going somewhere, to all the people on the island, but wouldn't even swallow what he told them to take. This is symptomatic of the preacher, because they can be naturally gifted. They can be naturally persuasive. They can be very characteristic. They have natural charisma. And this natural charisma often makes them very confident. And because they have natural charisma, y'all stay with me, because they have natural charisma and they have this natural confidence, this makes them very attractive. I'm here to tell you, when you've got the preacher type on your hand, you've got a very charismatic person who is naturally charismatic, who is naturally gifted, who is a natural charmer, who is naturally confident. And this confidence can make them very attractive. They ain't even got to be cute. Their charisma can make them cute. I can't tell you the number of people, because I got images going through my head. I can't tell you the number of people who are just not very attractive people who ended up with the most attractive people, and it had nothing to do with their looks, and it had everything to do with their charisma. It had everything to do with their confidence, and had everything to do with their energy, right? And so the preacher type is also very charismatic. They're naturally charismatic. They're naturally energetic. But here's the kicker. Their strength and their weakness is their conversation. Here we go. Their strength and their weakness is their conversation. Listen to me. When you are dealing with a preacher, they don't even have to be cute, because one of their strengths is their conversation. They don't reel you in necessarily with physical attraction. They don't reel you in necessarily with the things they have or don't have. They often reel you in with their conversation. And their conversation is both a strength and it's a weakness. Now hear me. It's a strength because when you have a preacher on your hand, the preacher can make you believe in them and believe in yourself. I feel like this is too deep already tonight, and I'm just getting started. The preacher, because they are charismatic and naturally gifted, can make you believe in them and can make you believe in yourself. This is very important. This is very important. They're naturally gifted. They're naturally charismatic. They're naturally confident, and their confidence makes them attractive. It ain't about their looks. It's about their conversation. And their conversation can make you believe in you. It can make you believe in them. But here's the backside of it. It's also a weakness because they can talk themselves into anything and sometimes out of a lot. Did you hear what I said? The preacher can use that same conversation that's a strength. They can use that same conversation. It becomes a weakness because they can talk themselves into anything and sometimes talk themselves out of a lot of things. So the thing that is a strength to them becomes a weakness to them because that conversation can cause them to talk themselves into a lot of things. And listen, I'm going to tell you, when you've got a preacher on your hand, again, I'm not talking about the occupation. I'm talking about the type. I keep saying this because I want people to understand the context of what I'm saying. I ain't talking about preachers tonight. I'm talking about the preacher type. When you've got the preacher type on your hand, hear me. The preacher type can talk you into doing anything. The preacher type, because they are naturally gifted. Did y'all remember what I'm saying? They are naturally persuasive. They have strong conversation. They can literally talk you into anything. And this is important. Watch this. You might know you got a preacher on your hand if you find yourself breaking all of your rules with them. Let me say that again. You might have the preacher type. I ain't talking about preachers. You may have the preacher type on your hand if every time you are around them, you break all of your rules while you are around them, because they are naturally gifted. They are naturally charismatic, and they are naturally confident. And that confidence turns into attraction. And when it turns into attraction, by simple conversation, they can have you doing stuff, saying stuff, being places, doing things that you have never done before. And you don't even understand why you're doing it, other than you connected to somebody who's got great conversation. I feel like this is too much tonight. Facebook, y'all quiet tonight. I feel like this is too much. I feel like this. They are dangerous people. They're dangerous people. Some of you never tried some stuff until you got a preacher. Ooh. No, you never tried some stuff You never put yourself in some positions. You never put yourself in some circumstance. Some of y'all need to tag 5 people. Y'all ain't tagged nobody. I can tell. You ain't. Some of you have never put yourself in certain situations. Some of you have never tried certain things until you had a preacher on your hand, because that preacher naturally persuaded you and talked you into all kinds of stuff. And that's part of their ammo. The preacher type is naturally charismatic. The only way Jim Jones could convince grown folks to drink cyanide is if he had some charisma. Can I tell you? If you get the right preacher, they'll cause you to kill yourself if you keep fooling with them. Oh, it's quiet. I had to scream. I've been holding it in. I've been trying to be smooth tonight. I couldn't help it. The right preacher. I'm talking about the type. The preacher type can talk you out of your destiny and even cause you to have your own life ruined if you're not careful. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying? You need to go back and look at your stat sheet and ask yourself, who are the people that I dated that I found myself doing stuff that I never did before, that I never thought I would do before, that I never thought I would be involved with before? And I promise you, the names of those people are preachers. It's quiet, Facebook. Tag 5 people. It's quiet. Periscope on fire. I think Instagram is shell-shocked. It's the truth. And because they are good conversationalists, let me say this too. Because the preacher type is talented with their conversation, listen to me, they have to be heard. And because they have to be heard, they are not the best listeners. I'm giving y'all free game tonight. So they're naturally charismatic. They're naturally gifted. They have great conversation. And those things make them very attractive. And because they are very attractive and conversation is their strength, they struggle because they have to be heard. And because they have to be heard, they are not the best listeners. Are y'all with me tonight? We're just getting started. Characteristic number 2. Characteristic number 2 of the preacher. Y'all with me? Let's look at this. Characteristic number 2 of the preacher is this. I'm talking about types. Characteristic number 2 of the preacher is this. Their willingness to rescue anything makes them vulnerable to whore tendencies. Their willingness to rescue anything makes them vulnerable to whore tendencies. Y'all not listening to me tonight. This is getting too heavy already, and I'm just on characteristic 2. Their willingness to rescue anything makes them vulnerable to whore tendencies. If you got kids near you, cover their ears. Yeah, we're going there. Cover their ears. This is about to get nasty. Their willingness to rescue anything makes them vulnerable to whore tendencies. I'm going to break this down. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22 through 27. Their willingness, are y'all recording this in the notes, Facebook? I don't see y'all writing. Their willingness to rescue anything makes them vulnerable to whore tendencies. Yeah, we need children's church for this tonight. Just tell the kids to go in the next room and watch Ethan and Cole. All right, they don't need to be here on this one right here. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22 through 27. I'm about to break this down for y'all. Y'all ready? Verse 22, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22 through 27, New Living Translation says this: when I am with those who are weak, I share their weaknesses. For I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save someone. Right? This is Paul talking. One of the greatest preachers that ever lived. I do everything to spread the good news and share in its blessings. So Paul is saying in verse 22 and 23 that in order to spread this gospel, I try to become everybody I can to try to win just a few people. So I'm willing to become whatever I need to become to try to win people. Stay with me. I try to become whatever I have to become to try to win people. Are y'all following me? Verse 24. Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. Verse 25. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadow boxing. Watch this, verse 27. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Here's the kicker, verse 27. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. Tell you what Paul says in a nutshell. Paul says in a nutshell, I'm going to just give you these verses in English so you can understand them. He said, I'm a preacher, and in order to win people, I become a little bit of everything just to win a few. I realize that I ain't going to win them all, but I try to become a little bit of everything around me so I can win a few people. And in the process of becoming everything around me to try to win a few people, I still have to discipline myself. Because if I go too far and don't discipline myself, then I become what I try to rescue. Did you hear what I said? Let me tell you what the preacher does. What makes the preacher awesome? This is too heavy tonight. What makes the preacher awesome is that they can become anything to relate to other people. That's a good preacher. I'm talking in the natural sense. You think about a preacher, your pastor, whoever. What makes a good preacher awesome is that they can become anything to relate to anybody, right? That's what makes them awesome. But here's the problem. Even if a good preacher becomes whatever to relate, a preacher without discipline is an easy candidate to become a whore. A preacher, the preacher type, without discipline is an easy candidate to become a whore. Why? Because you are leeching on everything. And if I leech on everything and I have no discipline, then everything that I leech onto becomes a part of who I am. So in the process of the preacher trying to save other people and feeling like they can save everybody, they end up leeching on everybody. And when they're leeching on everybody and have no discipline, they open up the door to become whores. Can I say this to you tonight? For the preacher type, the thirst and temptation of what they try to save, what they try to help, is too much for their lack of boundaries. Preachers, the preacher type struggles with boundaries. They struggle with boundaries. They struggle with discipline. I ain't talking about the occupation. I'm talking about the dating type. The preacher type that is the dating type that is called the preacher struggles with boundaries. They struggle with discipline. And listen, it doesn't mean that all preacher types are whores. It doesn't mean that. Don't misunderstand me. But what it does mean is this: their outreach nature makes them susceptible. See, the problem with the preacher type is that they don't have a type. I don't know if y'all catching this. The problem with the type called the preacher is that they don't have a type. They think they can rescue everybody. And when you don't have a type, you go after everybody. And when you go after everybody, you become susceptible to becoming a whore. Doesn't mean you are one. It's just like this COVID thing. Let me just explain COVID, because I think I'm losing y'all tonight. It's just like with this COVID thing, right? COVID, any of us can catch COVID-19. Any of us can. But there are certain types of people that are more susceptible to COVID: the elderly, people with pre-existing conditions. They're more susceptible to it. So when you know you are susceptible to it, you have to have the discipline not to be in certain spaces. You have to have the discipline not to be in certain places. And so what makes the preacher so dangerous is that the very notion that they feel they can save everybody causes them to live a life without boundaries. And listen, the very thing that makes them talented is also the very thing that can do them in. The preacher type struggles because they think they can fix everybody. They think they can help everybody. And they struggle with putting a boundary on the fact that they can't rescue everybody. A preacher dater without boundaries is an easy victim to thirst. A preacher dater without boundaries is an easy victim to somebody trying to holler at them. Watch this. Some people you were connected to were very intelligent. They knew right from wrong. They knew where to go and where not to go. They knew where to be and what not to be. But here's the problem: because they didn't have an identified type, and because they felt like they could impact everything they touched, they were open to everything that came their way. And because they were open to everything that came their way, they ended up being falling in traps that they should not have fallen in. When you don't have a type, you don't have boundaries. When you don't have boundaries, you don't have discipline. Put that in the comments. When you don't have a type, you don't have boundaries. And when you don't have boundaries, you don't have discipline. When you don't have a type, you don't have boundaries. And when you don't have boundaries, you don't have discipline. Which means on a good day, there's a possibility that anything goes. On a good day, there's a possibility that anything goes. When you don't have a type, you don't have boundaries. Come on, Facebook. Y'all quiet. I wish I could jump into some of these watch parties. When you don't have a type, you don't have boundaries. And when you don't have boundaries, you don't have discipline. And when you don't have discipline, you will be all over the place. And some of you have dated the preacher. And the preacher type was smart, intelligent, could point out what was wrong in life and society, was well-read, could point out what was wrong with everybody else. But the problem was they was going after anything that walked. They felt like they could rescue anything that breathed. They felt like they could help anything that had a pulse. And when you operate like that, or when they operate like that, they become susceptible to whoredom. Don't want to be a whore? Have a type. It's quiet. Don't want to walk in whoredom. Have boundaries. It's quiet. Don't want to be all over the place. Get you a type. Have you some credentials and say, if these people don't check these boxes, then I'm not going to make myself open to somebody, watch, who's already open to everybody else. Because when you open up to the preacher who's already open to everybody else, watch this, they invite their drama into your life. Can I say this to y'all? Woo-hoo! I'm getting warmed up now. Can I say this to y'all? Some of you, your lives haven't been the same after you dated the preacher. And it is because your time in their space, your time in their life, your time in their atmosphere, not only opened you up to them, but it opened you up to everything concerning them. Every spirit that was attached to them, because they were so open and so willing to go after everybody, because they were so open and so willing to try to save everybody, every spirit that was attached to them became your problem. Talk back to me, Zion. Became your problem. And that's what makes the preacher dangerous. Are y'all with me? Is this making sense? Fill it up with hearts. Come on, like and tag somebody. Tag 2-3 people real quick. Don't leave. Tag 2 or 3 people right now and tell them to get on the line. I'm just on characteristic number 3. It's about to get even better. But I'm here to tell you, don't you forget characteristic number 2. And I meant it. Their willingness to rescue anything makes them vulnerable to have hope tendencies. And some of you know you got a preacher and it's shocking you because they smart. But the problem is they ain't smart enough to realize that they got to have a type. So they all over the place. You can even try to confront them about things that they do wrong, and they'll give you explanations that blow your mind because they are naturally charismatic. They are naturally gifted and might be naturally intelligent. But the problem is they don't have a type. The problem is they don't have boundaries. The problem is with them, anything goes. And people like that will entertain anything. And people who entertain anything belong to the streets. The preacher who has no boundaries belongs to the streets. They not yours, bro. She belonged to the streets. He not yours, sis. He belonged to the streets. I don't care how smart he is. I don't care how talented he is. I don't care how gifted he is. I don't care how knowledgeable he is. I don't care how charming he is. If he has no boundaries, if he entertains everything, he belongs to the streets. I don't care how cute she is. I don't care how smart she is. I don't care how much she's helped you with your life. I don't care how much she's helped you organize your life and get your life together. I don't care about none of that. If she has no boundaries and she entertains everything and is willing to entertain everything, she belongs to the streets. A woman of the night. Characteristic number 3. Y'all tagging 5 people? Come on, Facebook, get them in the room. I want to see that number. I need to see that number go up by about 40 more viewers. Tag 5 people right now. Some of y'all can't even say amen. Listen, if this is making sense to you tonight, do me a favor, because I feel like I'm stepping on all kinds of toes. Do me a favor. Just put in the comments, ouch. If this is blessing you tonight, and I'm preaching to you or somebody you know, we're going to act like it ain't you, somebody you know. I just want you to put in the comments, ouch. My daddy used to say all the time, if you can't say amen, just say ouch. Come on, put in the comments. I need to see the numbers go up. Ouch. Amen. Somebody's honest enough to say amen. Say ouch. But it's about to get better. Look at this. Characteristic number 3. Ouch. All caps. Put the sick emoji there. Whatever you got to do. You need to tag somebody. Tag their name and say ouch. They'll catch the replay. But I'm telling you, you better stop dating folks that are preacher types who have no boundaries. Because it's great that you feel like you can save the world, but at some point you got to be selfish and realize you can't save everybody. You got to be selfish at some point and realize that everybody is not your assignment. You know what changed my life personally as a real pastor? Let me tell you what changed my life personally as a real pastor. When I grew to the place where I realized that every person out here who need to be saved don't belong to me. They don't belong to me. They don't. Everybody out here that I would love to be a part of it, they're not my assignment. And when you come to grips with the fact of what your assignment is and what your assignment is not, then you have set a boundary. And then when you set that boundary, that means everything don't go. Everything ain't just, all just goes the way it want, they want it to go. You have boundaries, you have restrictions, you have guides in place. And this is important. And my whole ministry changed when I learned that one concept. Let me tell you something. You date a preacher, you date the preacher, not a preacher. You date the preacher type. Hear what I'm saying. When they establish boundaries, it's going to change how they see assignment. And right now, some of you have been dating preacher types, and you have been wondering why they are not giving you the attention you need, but it is because they don't see you as an assignment. You're just one of their assignments. Characteristic 3. Y'all inviting 5 people? Facebook, Instagram, invite somebody. I'm about to lose y'all. I'm going to let y'all back in. Let me do that now. Instagram. I want all of you to come back on the line. I'm about to lose you now. And I don't want you to miss characteristic 3. All right? Y'all, come on. Come on back in. Are y'all with me? Facebook, Periscope, you with me? Let's deal with this. Because I do not want you to miss tonight the importance of characteristic number 3. All right? If you're there, fill it up with hearts. I'm getting Instagram back on the line. Characteristic number 3. Y'all ready? I'm getting Instagram back on the line. Y'all bear with me. All right. Characteristic number 3. So we said, as Instagram is coming back on, we said characteristic number 1 of the preacher. We said characteristic number 1 of the preacher is that they think they can save, change, or rescue everybody. All right. So we say characteristic number 1 of the preacher is that they think they can save, change, or rescue anybody. All right. We said characteristic number 2, for those of you that are trying to catch up, that are just tuning in. We said characteristic number 2 of the preacher was that their willingness, and I'm talking about the preacher type. Lord, my inbox gonna be blowing up. Pastor, I heard you was calling preachers hoes. Well, the shoe fit, wear it, but I really wasn't. I'm talking about the type of dater. Characteristic number 2, their willingness to rescue anything makes them vulnerable to whore tendencies. Okay? Characteristic number 3 of the preacher type is this. You ready? Characteristic number 3 is this. They can be secretly insecure. The preacher type, characteristic number 3 of the preacher type. They can be secretly insecure. Now, this one sounds shocking. Wait, Pastor, you just told me that the preacher was confident. You just told me, Pastor, that the preacher was charismatic. You just told me, Pastor, that the preacher has great conversation. You just told me, Pastor, that the preacher type was very convincing. You just told me all of this. So how can the preacher type be secretly insecure? Let me explain. If you have dated the preacher type, you are dating somebody who oftentimes feels like saving others will address their own esteem issues. Saving others to the preacher type often addresses their own self-esteem issues. It's just like how evangelism and outreach works in a ministry, right? The preacher type oftentimes, or people often go out and do outreach and evangelism or community service. They do these things not just because they want to help people, hear me, but helping them makes them feel better about themselves. Y'all come on, stay with me. If you've ever done community service at Rehab, we've done a lot of outreach. You all know the story now. In less than 7 years, we've fed over 20,000 people. So we do outreach regularly. And I had people, not just from my church, but also people from the community who may be a part of other churches or who may not even be a part of church at all, who see our outreach events and they come out and say, hey, we just want to help and serve. So we let them serve. It's not a big deal to us. We just want to serve the people. But so often they say, you know, I wanted to come do this because when I'm feeding other people, it makes me feel better about me. When I'm helping other people, it makes me feel better about me. This is a characteristic of the preacher type. Because do you understand that oftentimes it is their need to help other people that helps them secretly feel better about themselves? And so if their need to help people helps them to secretly feel better about themselves, watch this, their insecurity can lead them to prefer the damsel in distress. This is too much. I should have saved some of this for the book. Hear me. Their insecurity can lead them to prefer the damsel in distress. It's got to make sense to you, because if they're wired as such that helping people who need help makes them feel better about themselves, then they target people that they feel like need their help. Watch this. Some of you have been connected to folks that are the preacher type, and they're gifted and they're charismatic and they got great conversation. They've got wisdom. They got good game. They're very talented, all of this stuff. But what you don't realize is the joke was really on you. And the reason the joke was on you is because this type only connects with people that they feel like need their help. This is free game. Their insecurity and their preference for those who need help can make them come off as very controlling. Did you hear what I said? Their insecurity, their preference for people who need help can make them come off as very controlling. I feel like I'm going too deep tonight. And sometimes you can't see their insecurity because of their confidence. So you dealing with them and you can't tell that they insecure because they real confident. You talk to them, they always got good game for you. They're gifted, they talented, they're very charismatic. They can make you laugh, they can make you smile. You can't pick up no insecurity because they got all of this stuff together. So you can't see the insecurity because you see their confidence. You can't see the insecurity because you see their conversation. You can't see the insecurity because you see their charisma. But what you can see is their control. What you can see is their controlling ways. So you can't see their insecurity. But meanwhile, you can't do nothing outside of what they like without them getting offended. This is good to me. Trying to help you. No, you can't see the insecurity, but you can tell that they got control issues. I want you to put this in the comments now. You need to run away from anybody who has control issues. Do not date people with control issues. Put it in the comments right now. Tag somebody. You got a girlfriend. You got a homeboy who needs to hear this. You need to tag them. Stop dating folks with control issues. If you got control issues and we can't see your insecurity, but we can see your confidence, then you might be the preacher type. Run away from people who have control issues. Now, I know I'm about to get in trouble here. About to get in trouble. Well, Pastor, I've been dating brother such and such for 5 years now, and we like to check in. About to get in trouble. We like to check in, Pastor, because I feel like I need somebody that's got my back, who's gonna watch me, and so when I'm going to the grocery store, I need to call them and tell them I'm going to the grocery store. And they just want to make sure that I'm okay. Run! You mean to tell me you can't go to the grocery store without telling somebody you're going to the grocery store? Oh, y'all think I'm making this stuff up. Do you know how many people I've counseled that are not married, that are dating, that are checking in their every move with people? Who you're checking into has control issues. And you don't not only need to run, you need to get out of Dodge as fast, somebody just said it, as you can. Sometimes you can't see their insecurity because they're charismatic, because they're confident, because they're great communicators. But I'm here to tell you, you might not be able to see their insecurity because of their confidence. But if you pay attention, you can see their control. And the preacher type has serious control issues. If they ain't in control, ain't nothing gonna be right. If they're not in control, I'm trying to help you. If they're not in control, ain't nothing gonna be right. If it ain't going their way, ain't nothing gonna be right. If they don't have the last word, watch this. You want to know if you got the preacher type on your hand? If they always have to have the last word, they'll drain you. The preacher types who have to have the last word will absolutely drain you. You'll get to a point where you don't even want to have a conversation or argument with them because you know it ain't going to end until they have the last word. So you can't even see their insecurity because they real confident. They real cocky. But one way that you can see that they are the preacher type is because they have control issues, because every argument you get into with them, every time you get into a back and forth with them, and they can be as wrong as two left shoes, but they got to have the last word. And the argument ain't over until they have the last word. You got the preacher type on your hand, and you have a control freak on your hand. Run. Is this making sense to anybody tonight? Run. Run. The argument will never be over until they have the last word. The situation will never be over until they have the last word. And you don't need to be connected to nobody who always got to have the last word. Run. Don't look back. Characteristic number 4. Y'all better stop dealing with folk with control issues. Can I tell y'all this? Tell y'all this. And this is some good old-fashioned wisdom right here. If you connected to somebody who always got to have the last word, who always got to be right, who always got to make you see things their way, and you can never have to, they never have to see things your way. Let me tell you something about these kind of people right here. People with control issues are also people who have abuse issues. And I don't have time to psychologically go into that deep. But let me tell you something. If somebody will control you, they'll abuse you. Uh-oh. Put it in the comments. Control and abuse are like first cousins. Yes. Control and abuse are like, you ain't got no business answering to nobody but your husband or your wife. Nobody but your husband or wife. If folk want you to answer to them, they need to put a ring on something. Control and abuse are first cousins. And what you don't even realize is that when people are controlling you, they are abusing you. You're welcome. It's quiet, Zion. Come on, Zion. Talk to me. When folks are controlling you, they are abusing you. You don't even realize it. You can't even go to the grocery store without telling Ray you going to the grocery store. Po thing, you can't even go to the beach for a weekend with your boys without having to check in. Hello, I made it to the hotel. I just want to let you know I'm at the hotel. I call you when we go to get something to eat. Hello, we just got dressed. We're about to go get something to eat. I call you when we get to the restaurant. Hello, we're at the restaurant. I call you when we leave the restaurant. Hello, we're leaving the restaurant. We're about to hang out on the strip for a while. I call you when we get to the next place. Oh, I know I'm preaching better than y'all saying amen. And some of you have checked in to folk who have not put a ring on your finger and you look crazy. I'm not stopping. No, I hear the Holy Ghost now. No, you checking in the folk who have not. And let me tell you something. And let me just go ahead and just deal with the monkey in the room. Let me tell you something. And even when they put a ring on your finger, if you still got to do all of that after they put a ring on your finger, you got bigger issues. You got issues called trust. Because if you married to somebody and you got to check in like that, they don't trust you. Period. Pooh. Y'all ain't talking to me. My Facebook number's going down. Tag your friends and tell them to get back in the room. Somebody gonna get delivered tonight. Somebody gonna get delivered tonight. Characteristic number 4. Y'all better leave these control freaks alone because they're abusing you. They're abusing you. And listen, if you feel like you are a preacher, the preacher type, and you're doing that to other people, let me tell you something. Spare other people and make sure that you fix your own issues before you get into another relationship. Because you don't need to bring the drama from your past relationships into new relationships, scarring people who ain't got nothing to do with the hurt that you ain't been healed from. Why don't you get healed first before you get in a relationship trying to rescue somebody else? Because what you're going to end up doing in the process of trying to rescue somebody else, you're going to end up hurting somebody else because you ain't got over your own issues. Control is abuse. If you can't go nowhere without having to answer to somebody, you are being abused. Period, Pooh. Characteristic number 4. Is this blessing anybody tonight? Lord, my Facebook number's dropping. Folks is leaving the church. Look at this. Characteristic number 4. Y'all ready? The 4th characteristic of the preacher type. 4th characteristic of the preacher type is this. When the challenge leaves, their interest might leave. When the challenge leaves, their interest might leave. This is the 4th characteristic of the preacher type. And that is that when the challenge leaves, their interest might leave. This is important because the preacher type perceives themselves to be fixers. They perceive themselves to be fixers. So watch this. So they are attracted to what's broken. We already covered this. We already covered this. And again, that's good and bad. It's good because, hey, they can help fix people and help people become better people. And all. That's what they do. But it's bad because they can damage you trying to find something wrong with you, because finding something wrong with you helps them feel better about them. Did you hear what I said? These people can damage you because they got to try to find something wrong with you, because finding something wrong with you helps them feel better about them. And the minute they can no longer find something wrong with you, you become boring to them. Thus, when the challenge leaves, their interest leaves. They are attracted to broken people. They are attracted to broken people. They damage you. Again, because finding something wrong with you helps them feel better about themselves. Can I say this to you? You will have pointless arguments with the preacher type. Watch this. Pastor, I don't know if who I'm dating is the preacher type. Here's another clue. If you find yourself having pointless arguments over stupid things, and it seems like the person you're dating is being nitpicky about everything, you've got the preacher type on your hand. You're welcome. The reason they're being so nitpicky about everything that's going on with you is because finding something wrong with you helps them feel better about themselves. This must be bad. I'm losing my Facebook crowd tonight. I don't know what I did to y'all. Do y'all hear what I'm saying tonight? The preacher type, they are methodical self-esteem destroyers. Put that in the comments. They are methodical self-esteem destroyers. The preacher type will literally destroy your self-esteem. The preacher type will literally destroy your self-esteem. They'll tear down your self-esteem because they will spend more time trying to find what's wrong with you. And it's going to come across as very nitpicky. It's going to come across as very annoying and agitating. But what you don't realize what's happening is that minute by minute, second by second, they are destroying your self-esteem. Preacher types are methodical self-esteem destroyers. You will finish dating a preacher type and feel like you are the worst person in the world because of everything they always have constantly picked out about you. I don't feel like I'm doing well tonight. I don't know what's wrong. Is it a half moon or something? I don't know. They are methodical self-esteem destroyers. That's what makes this type dangerous. And hear me, they'll destroy your self-esteem so much that it weakens your ability to fight. And when your ability to fight is weakened and your self-esteem is gone, you start putting up with things that you know better than putting up with. Jim Jones was running the hose in Jonestown. Did y'all hear what I'm saying? Jim Jones was running the hose at the Jonestown camp. You know why? The reason why Jim Jones, as their pastor, was able to run the hose at the camp is because he weakened them to start believing everything that he said. And when he was able to weaken them to the point where they believed everything that he said, where he was able to discipline up them and chastise them about everything they did, they had no more esteem. They had no more self-worth. And here he is running the hose at the camp. Here he is going through the camp, sleeping with men's wives, and they knew it. And they couldn't dare stop it because all of their esteem was destroyed. Can I ask you a question? What have you put up with that you know was wrong, but because your self-esteem was so defeated, you didn't have the energy to fight it? If you have been connected to somebody that you have put up with something for so long and you have lost the energy to fight, and your response instead of fighting was just sticking it out, you are dating a preacher. Methodical self-esteem destroyers. Wow. Is this too much? This might be too much. I feel like it's too much. On Periscope, they're telling me this is way too much. Maybe is this too much? I can just save some of this stuff for the book. And I ain't even giving y'all everything. This is the rated R version. Am I going too far? They are methodical self-esteem destroyers. Run as fast as you can. Run as fast as you can. Characteristic 5, and I'm done. The fifth characteristic of the preacher type. The fifth characteristic of the preacher type is this. Hear me. The preacher type, fifth characteristic is this. And again, and I want to keep drawing the parallel. I'm not just talking about people you date. I'm even talking about people you're in relationships with. Or friendships with. You can have friends who are like this. Friends that are always right, friends that are always finding something wrong with you, friends that are always nitpicking what's wrong with you. Meanwhile, they got, 7 whole hoes and a partridge in a pear tree, and they can't see nothing wrong with them, but they can see everything's wrong with you. And if you listen to that and you feed into that, it will tear you down. So it's more than just dating. This can also be connected to the people that we connect to, which is why if you're going to choose friends in this season, make sure you have people in your life, watch this, who can dish it, who can take it the same way they dish it. You need people in your life who can take it the same way they dish it. Because one of the flaws to a preacher, the preacher type can dish it real good. But the preacher type has a hard time swallowing the same cyanide that they told you to swallow. Characteristic number 5, and I'm closing. The fifth characteristic of the preacher type is this. They can be surprisingly flawed. I'm going to explain this because it may not make sense initially. The preacher type can be surprisingly flawed. I'm going to explain why I have the word surprisingly there. The preacher type can be surprisingly flawed. And this is important. The reason this is important is simple. Because the preacher type can give the impression of great knowledge, great, charisma, great enthusiasm, great information, and they can communicate this well. They can, right? So they give the impression of being the world savers, the world help. They came into your life that you were going through a bad period. They came into your life, and then suddenly everything just got better. And they just, something's wrong. They can fix it. You going through, they can talk you out of it. They're fixers, and that's great. And it's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that. They can give that impression of being fixers, and in many ways, they can be. Here's where the word surprisingly comes into play. Because I wrote that characteristic with a high level of sarcasm. You ready? The reason they are surprisingly flawed, their flaws are shocking because they can know better and still not do better. The preacher type can know better, but still not do better. They can know better, but still not do better. And these are the people who come across as Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. These are the people who come across as know-it-alls. These are the people you can't tell them nothing. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Them folks. They know-it-alls. You can't tell them nothing. They ain't going to listen when you're trying to help them. You get in an argument with them, they're going to be talking over you. And you can tell when you got them on the ropes, because when you are in relationship or connected to the preacher type and you win in an argument, they'll start saying stuff like, "Oh, you finished? Or, oh, can I talk now? Or, oh, is that all you got to say? Or, oh, let me know when you're done." Sarcasm is the way of letting you know that they're being defeated. Because in their mind, their argument is always perfect. This is too much. Maybe this is too much tonight. But hear me, their flaws are shocking for this reason. Because when you come across as a know-it-all, you leave no room to be flawed. Let me tell you something. When you dealing with the preacher type and they act like they know everything, you can't tell them nothing. You try to explain something to them. They don't want to hear you. They always want to be heard. They don't want to hear you. You get to a point where they come across as a know-it-all. And when you come across as a know-it-all, you have no right to be flawed. You have no room to be flawed. And so you are surprised when you discover that the very people who know it all, the very people who are perfect, the very people that won't listen, that always got to be heard, got all of these issues, it becomes hard to receive from them as long as you're in your right mind. They can be perceived as hypocrites because they are harder on others than they need to be on themselves. Did you hear what I'm saying? They can be perceived as hypocrites because they harder on everybody else than what they really need to be on themselves. And so it shocks you. You are surprised that they are flawed because they come across as know-it-alls, come across as having it all together. They have a great impression of having all of this information and knowledge. But the problem is, when you are a know-it-all, you have no room to be flawed. Because when you're a know-it-all, you are putting yourself in a position where folks don't want to handle you. Can I say this to you? If you are dating or connected to, in friendship, relationship, a know-it-all, run. 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 In this season, I need you to run from people who know everything. Come on, put it in the comments. I'm running from people who know everything. I'm running from people who know everything. Boyfriend, girlfriend, friends, BFFs, family members, whoever. I'm running from people who know everything, because people who know everything are on the border of becoming control freaks. And we already been through this. When you are a control freak, you are a closet abuser. You better start running from people who know everything. And let me tell you some other characteristics that go with this, and I'm closing. Not only do they know everything, but you can't correct them. They get easily offended. You want to know if you got a preacher on the preacher type on your hand? It's simple. Correct them over the same thing. When they try to correct you over something, correct them when they are guilty of the same thing, and watch how easy they get offended. I said, correct them over the very thing that they tried to correct you on, and watch how quick they get offended. And the reason they get so quickly offended is because when you correct them, you are waking up the skeletons in their closet that they have hidden for nobody to see. And the way you expose the skeletons on the preacher type is when you dish back to them the very thing that they dished out to you. They're great dishers. They can't take what they dish. Is this making sense to anybody tonight? Did this bless anybody tonight? I don't know. Thank you, Periscope. Thank you. I don't know if I went too far in. Let me tell you something about this preacher type. This preacher type is dangerous because this preacher type will mentally have you going crazy, because you'll find yourself, again, I'm not talking about just dating relationship. I'm talking about friends. Some of you have friends, and most of your friends are the preacher type. They always right. You can't get in an argument with them because they always got to get the last word. They think their word is better than everybody else, and they never want to listen. And I'm going to tell you, those types of friends are toxic. Those types of friends are toxic abusers. And you need to run as fast as you can from those types of friends. You don't need nobody in your friend circle that can't listen the same way they dish out. You don't need nobody in your friendship circle that can't receive the same way they give. It's important. So this thing is bigger than just dating. You can be connected to people that are the preacher type, that are also your friends, that are also your associates, and you don't need nobody in that circle. You need people in your circle where all of you are equal opportunity checkers. You know what an equal opportunity checker is? An equal opportunity checker, when it comes to the circle of friends, are the people you have in your circle that at any moment, all of y'all can get each other together. You know you got the right circle of people you dating, people you're in a relationship with, people you married to, whatever. You know you got the right circle of people when y'all can freely check one another and nobody gets offended. So I want to pray right now. Let me open up the lines for prayer requests. I feel like I need some slow music. Let me open up the lines for prayer requests tonight. If you have a prayer request, I want you to know, if you put a prayer request in here on Sunday, I've been praying for you the last 2 mornings. And I've been up early praying for you, and I will be up early in the morning praying for you. Every morning I get up 5:03. I get up and I pray over your prayer request. And so do me a favor. If you're on the feed tonight and you have a prayer request and it's something that you don't mind me reading, I want you to put or everybody's saying, I want you to put the prayer request in the comments right now. A few of you sent some prayer requests to the email address on Sunday. I have not ignored them. I've read them. I am praying over them. A few of them I'm going to be, have asked for a response, and I'm going to be responding to them. I always like to seek God and pray first before I respond, because I never want to respond in me. And so if you've got a personal prayer request, if there's something you personally need me to pray for, I want you to email that prayer request to info@rehabcc.org. That's info@rehabcc.org. If you've got a personal prayer request, something you want me to pray for, and it's personal, and you don't want anybody to see it, I want you to send that prayer request, and I would love to pray for you. I would love to pray for your family. Come on, put it in the comments. I want to read a few of these as they come up. Some of you are saying, Pastor, pray for a new circle. I want a new circle in my life. I want to pray for you. Some of you want free heart surgery. I love that. Some of you want God to condition and recondition your heart. I want to pray for that. Some of you are praying for family members. I see names in the comments, a Daniel Bland and a Jackie Glover. I don't know them, but I'm going to be praying for them this week, lifting them up high. Your family, your friends, your marriage, your kids, good, your health. I want to pray for all of those things. What a wonderful and powerful list there. Come on, Facebook, if you've got any prayer requests, anything you want me to pray for, I want you to put it in the comments right now. Your kids, I want to pray for your kids. Your health, I want to pray for your health. Your confidence. Some of you heard this message tonight and you realized that not only have you dated the preacher type, but dating the preacher type has exposed the fact that you have self-esteem issues. You've got confidence issues. I'm praying that God renews your confidence. I'm praying that God renews your self-esteem. Let me tell you something. There is no darker place than to have everything going for you, but you have low self-esteem. There's no darker place than for everybody around you to be able to see how wonderful you are, but you can't even see your own wonder because of your self-esteem, because of your self-confidence. I'm praying for that. Yes, I'm praying for your wisdom. I'm praying for your continued growth. We are certainly praying for the condition of this world, and we are praying for the condition of our society right now, that our society would wake up finally as a whole and wake up and realize, yeah, we know all lives matter, but that ain't the point. Black lives matter, and all lives won't matter until Black lives matter. And we're certainly praying that our society gets that and gets that really soon before no more lives are lost. And so we're praying for our society. We're praying for the Black community. We're praying for our entire community. We're praying for our crazy president. We're praying for wisdom and continued growth. I'm praying for your healing from toxic and bad relationships. I'm praying that God heals you from bad situations that you have been in the past that have scarred you to the point where it's been hard for you to move forward. I'm praying for all of those things tonight. And I want you to know I'm going to be laboring every day. Come on, put your hands together like this. If you are by yourself, I want you to put your hands together like this. Clasp your hand together as a sign of touching and agreeing with me. Just clasp your hand together like this. If you are by yourself, if you are in the room with somebody, I want you to reach out and grab hands with them. I want you to reach out and grab hands with them. I want you to clasp your hands if you're alone. If you're in a room with somebody, reach out and grab hands with them. And I want you to give me 90 seconds. I want to pray with you. I am praying that God delivers you and that he delivers everything concerning you, that he touches everything concerning your prayer requests. Yes, even those people that are dealing with suicidal thoughts, people are taking their lives during this pandemic like never before because of everything that's just going on. We are losing lives, not only at the hands of others, but we are losing lives. People are taking their own lives, and we are certainly praying for mental sanity and mental clarity in this season. Listen, close your eyes. Let's touch and agree right now. Let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, I thank you tonight for your goodness. Thank you for this very challenging and very profound word. Thank you, God, for speaking to our hearts tonight. I pray tonight, God, a special prayer for every person that is tuned in live, every person that will watch the replay, that's watching right now, that God, you would send about peace and strength and healing into their life, into their situation like you never have before. God, I bless you, God, for the mistakes that we've all made in our past. Help us, God, to have a renewed mind, renewed self-esteem, renewed self-confidence, a renewed focus, so that we can be everything that you've called us to be. Not just us, God, but God, we unselfishly ask you to meet the needs of everybody on our prayer request list, everybody that's on our list, everybody that you placed on our hearts, God, our family members, our health, our circumstances, our job situations, Whatever the needs are, God, we claim them and speak them out to you now, that God, by your stripes, all of our situations, all of our circumstances are already healed. God, we speak into these airways now, and we speak supernatural healing, supernatural strength, supernatural ability to your people, that God, we might be able to overcome every obstacle that comes our way to be everything that you've called us to be. God, I pray a special prayer of strength over even this word tonight, that God, you would heal those that have made mistakes in the past as it relates to who they've connected with. That God, you would heal those that have made mistakes in the past as it relates to those that they've been friends with, those that have been in their circle. And help us, God, to understand that, God, the ability to set good boundaries in our lives should position us to be everything that you've called us to be. Help us, God, at the end of the day, to make better decisions. Help us, God, at the end of the day, to make better choices. Help us, God, at the end of the day, to be wiser in how we move forward so that we can be everything you've called us to be. We thank you for all of these things, and we count them done in Jesus' name. Amen. Do me a favor. If you prayed that prayer with me tonight, I want you to put in the comments right now, it is so. Put in the comments right now, it is so. If you touched and agreed with me, if you had a prayer request tonight and you touched and agreed with me, I want you to put in the comments tonight, it is so. You're saying it is so as a sign of faith in believing that God is answering your prayer. As a sign of faith in believing that God is working some things out. As a sign of faith and believing that God is still in the prayer answering, prayer hearing, prayer moving business. I want you to put it in the comments now. It is so. And I want you to know that whatever your it is, he is working it out for your good. It is so. Listen, if you're on the call tonight and you want to be saved, you're on the call tonight, but maybe you heard this message and you want to give your life to Christ, you're not saved. And you need a savior in your life and you want to accept Jesus Christ as your savior, I want to give you the floor right now to dedicate your life to Christ. There is no perfect time, no more perfect time than right now with everything that is going on around us. There is no more perfect time than right now than to dedicate our lives to Christ. If you are not saved, if you don't know Jesus Christ in the free pardon or forgiveness of your sins, I want to introduce you to him tonight. Romans 10 tells us simply that if we confess with our mouths and believe with our hearts that Jesus Christ not only forgave us of our sins, but he lived and died and rose again, that we are saved. It is a simple confession that we all need to make if we are going to confess our salvation in him. And if we're going to confess ourselves as being one with him. And so if you want to be saved tonight, doesn't matter where you are, maybe you're in a watch party, maybe you're watching this recording and you heard something in this message that has compelled you to want to live for Christ and you want to be saved. I want you to touch and agree with me right now. And I want you to repeat after me right now these words. I believe that Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, lived on this earth just as I'm living. He suffered, bled, and died on the cross. 3 days later, rose from the grave. And when he rose from the grave, he did it for my sins. I'm flawed, but I'm forgiven. And because of that, and because of my belief in him, I am saved. Listen, if you made that confession tonight, I want to clap my hands and virtually welcome you to the body of Christ. There is no better time than now to dedicate your life to Christ. And I want you to know tonight that if you made that confession, you have made the necessary first step to be everything that God wants you to be. You've made the necessary first step to walk in the favor and the grace that God's called you to be. Now, I need you wherever you are, Atlanta, New York, Houston, California, Germany, France, wherever, Greensboro, it doesn't matter where you are. I need you, now that you are a member of the kingdom of Jesus Christ, I need you now to find a church. Find you a church that is near you. Find you a church that has a pastor who is preaching a word that you understand. Sometimes the word is going to make you shout. Sometimes the word is going to make you replace your shoes because they're stepping all over your feet. It's okay. You need a pastor that is preaching a word that you understand, that's going to help you grow, that's going to help you become everything that you need to be. I want you to find that church, find that pastor. I want you to join that church, and I want you to dedicate now your life and your efforts to helping that church move forward. If you don't have a church home, maybe you want to be a part of the Rehab Christian Center family. I would love to grow with you. I would love to serve you. I would love to be your pastor. I would love to walk with you on this Christian journey. And if you are tuned in now, you probably see messages on the broadcast that are inviting you to be a part of our ministry. I would love to be your pastor. Just simply like that message or reach out to one of those moderators. They will get some information from you, and we would love to welcome you to what I believe is the most powerful church in the triad, the Rehab Christian Center. It is the perfect place for imperfect people, and I would love to be your pastor. But regardless of where you go, I want you to find you a church somewhere. I want you to find you a church somewhere, find you a pastor somewhere, and I want you to dedicate your life and your work to that ministry so that you can be everything that God's called you to be. All right. Listen, I love you. I want to challenge you to give tonight. If this message has blessed you, I want you to challenge you to give tonight, to sow into this ministry tonight. Let me just say again for the umpteenth time. Let me just say for the umpteenth time, it's a blessing to have you all with us as well. I've met so many wonderful people who've tuned in since this quarantine season, and I promise them that we're not going to lose this disconnect or get disconnected when things get back to normal. I'm already working on some plans to regularly be able to deliver the word virtually. And so I'm just so grateful for all of you, Sister Michelle and all of you for how you've been a blessing to us. I've said this so many times, and I want to say this again. Thank you so much to all of you that have been a blessing to our ministry financially. You've sown into our ministry. And I want to challenge you tonight to give. If this message has blessed you, if this series has blessed you, if our ministry has blessed you, I want to challenge you tonight to give and sow into our ministry. I promise you the Lord will bless you. We've not only fed more than 20,000 people in less than 7 years, we've done it with just tithes and offering. We believe in the impact and the power of tithing and giving. And one of the things that I always brag to my members and brag over the pulpit to anybody that will hear me is that when you are part of the Rehab Christian Center, you can give and look up and see your money in motion. And I believe that's the way the church and the ministry should work. You should be able to give and see your money making an impact, see your money furthering the ministry. And I'm grateful for that. So I want to challenge you to give tonight. There are 3 ways you can give. One, you can give via Cash App by simply going to $REHABCC give. Just go to Cash App and $REHABCC give. You can give via Cash App. 2, you can give on our website. If you go to our website, you can go to www.rehabcc.org. Or the third way is the easy way, and that is simply texting the word Rehab Works. One word, one big word, Rehab Works. 2 words combined as one word. Rehab Works to 88202. If you text Rehab Works to 88202, you can give right from your cell phone. Just follow the prompts and you can give right from your phone and be a blessing there. So again, 3 ways you can be a blessing to us. Again, you can give via Cash App at $REHABCC give. That's $REHABCC give. You can give Cash App $REHABCC give. You can give online through our website at www.rehabcc.org. www. Thank you so much for tuning in. www.rehabcc.org, our website. Or the third way is simply from your cell phone by texting the word Rehab Works to 88202. By texting the word Rehab Works to 88202. And you can give either of those 3 ways. And I promise you that if you sow into this ministry, God is going to bless you in a tremendous, tremendous way. Listen, I love you. I'm praying for you. Somehow I've got to figure out how to stop making Bible study 2 hours long. This thing went from 45 minutes of teaching to 2 hours. And it's all y'all's fault. I got to shorten my delivery because I think I'm boring the people, and the people are jumping off the call because this just might be too much at one time. But I want to challenge all of you to meet me this Sunday, 9:08 a.m. virtually. We are still doing virtual church. I know a lot of churches are returning. We are still doing virtual church. It is not time for us to get back into our ministry yet. That day is coming, and it's coming soon. But it's not the time now. My interest is more in your safety and your well-being right now. We're in no hurry. We want to come back and do it well. And it is my prayer that at least we will try to be back together by the month of August, which is our 7-year anniversary month. And so join us back here virtually for church on Sunday, 9:08 a.m. And I want you to tune in, and I need you. Instagram, those of you, the handful of you that are still on. Facebook, those of you, the handful that are still on. And even Periscope, I need you to invite 5 people to church to Sunday and tell them to tune in. I know it's early, but the good news about early church is that you can get the word of God, and you can go on and enjoy brunch and enjoy the rest of your day and whatever you have to do. But I promise you, invite 5 people, and I promise you they will not regret it. We're so excited and cannot wait to see you on Sunday morning. All right. I love each of you. I'm praying for you. I'm rooting for you and your families. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I want you to be blessed, and I want you to be prayerful this week. I believe that this week, God is going to turn some things around for you and work some things out in your favor. And I want you to be encouraged. All right. Peace, blessings. Have a fantastic week.
Thank you for watching the Rehab Christian Center Live experience. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you and you would like to be a blessing to our leader, Dr. Zeb Talley III, you can sow a seed into his ministry by Cash App at $Pastor ZT3. It is our prayer that this message of hope encourage, enlighten, and empower you to be better. Please tune in Sunday at 9:08 a.m. for our Sunday morning experience. And as always, be blessed and have a wonderful week.